This is not a test. This is your emergency broadcast system announcing the commencement of the annual Buffalo Sports Purge, sanctioned by the one and only Terry Pagula. Commencing at the siren, any and all cuts, trades, releases will be legal and authorized during the Purge. All of this and more on this edition of the Buffalonian Podcast. All right, let's go. We are back with the Buffalonian Podcast. I'm Joe Callie, and as always, I'm joined by none other than Dom Loss. And Dom, boy, oh boy, what a day it has been. There's the Purge has begun, as you heard in the intro. Hopefully no copyright infringement on that one, but for just the sake of time here, Buffalo sports, we're cutting left and right, getting rid of, saving some cap. Bills and Sabres. Sabres on the lesser scale, even though the deadline's coming up. The Bills, just as Dom said pre-show, I got to use it here, hold my beer, Brandon Bean, and just went for it, went for the kill. So taking a look now, just what are your thoughts, like entering a day like this where in the beginning of the day before the pod, you and I were texting like, oh, what are we going to talk about? Oh, we'll talk about Lindy Ruff, figure out some offseason topics to talk about. No, it's a full news day. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's great to have, to be honest.
Yeah.
Earlier today with the Middlestead, I know we'll get into that trade, but, you and I are both wearing Sabres gear, so.
We are.
I thought,
We thought that was it?
I thought that was, damn.
Yeah.
I was about to call you and be like, hey, like, we never start with the Sabres usually, but, like, heck, I mean, Ryan Bates getting traded, we'll talk about that in a second as well, but that was kind of like,
Yeah, that was
smaller
the news.
Yeah, smaller
but
news.
Again, affects both rosters in their own way, but,
So.
I mean, here we are.
I guess let's dive right into it.
Yeah, let's Bills talk right away. What do we got?
I guess I'm feeling a little depressed.
It's a little sad.
It's sad. Depressed is the wrong word.
It's sad in a way because it's like it's the team we've basically had these guys on the roster since we started the show, right? Something that they've been very serviceable in their positions, right? Been decent players. They're not like they're terrible players. Currently, the Bills are just in cap hell, and they have to expunge some money in some places. And fortunately, they're the branches that are getting cut off the tree. So,
I mean, you look at it. I mean, there's two kind of different ways to get out of, as you alluded to, cap hell. Is either you buy more on the credit card through restructuring and
inflate,
like kind of like what the Saints did, or you cut, and you can still buy now, but you had to. There's a price that you had to get cap out right now with the actual cutting of players, and we saw that. It's an interesting day because these players a lot of them have been on the team since 2017.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them were on the first time that they made the playoffs. I believe every single player, maybe not Ryan Bates, who just got traded, was on the 2020 roster. That won the division for the first time.
I believe so.
25. So
yeah, sounds correct.
It's just it's an end of an era. It's I didn't get super emotional when Poyer got cut because I kind of last year I think we all had our emotional like Poyer's gone, but he then came back.
It was tough.
It was tough.
He was holding out a little bit too.
Yeah,
like
so
it was. Yeah,
that was kind of. That didn't really hit me. I mean, it hit me a little bit thinking that like it's over between him and Hyde.
Because they were. I mean, you think back to those big games, right? That New England Patriots playoff game, 47-17, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes. That
Micah Hyde just plucking it out of the air, right? Poyer right there with them. They made some huge plays together as a core, and they were the league precedent for a while on two tandem safeties to have. And to have that off your team now, and you're going to have to go younger and a little less experienced, it's a hit for sure.
I think leadership, too, just all the leadership they're losing in just the locker room in general on special teams with Saron Neal being gone, Mitch Morris now being cut. That hit me a little bit because, Mitch seems to be a good dude and all that. But the one that really hit me right now is Trey. I'm going to be honest. Like, he was kind of, the first-round pick. I know he wasn't Bean's first pick because there's technically still Doug Whaley, but the first pick of this era with McDermott All pro, number one
Standout talent right away.
great dude.
Mm-hmm.
Battled through injuries and kind of feel a little robbed of where he ended his Bills career. So yeah, that one hurts a lot. I mean, it's an unbelievable fact that Trey White, Matt Milano, and Von Miller played a combined one game together, and they didn't even play a full game. They played one half together in Detroit.
It's pretty surreal.
It is surreal. But I'm trying to think if we forgot. Well, they cut about $37 million. With Saran Neal about $3 million, Mitch 8.5, Trey White 10, Poyer close to 6, a little under 6. Deontay Hardy got cut for a little over 4. Naeem Hines gets cut. They save $1.4 million by trading Ryan Bates. Am I blanking on anyone who we're missing? I don't
Reconstructed. Rasul Douglas.
So that guarantees.
That kind of put the nail in Trey White's coffin right away.
Sure.
Yeah. As soon as you saw that, you're like,
because
okay.
that guaranteed Douglas was going to be on the. I mean, they could have cut Douglas outright for $9 million. I think when you saw that they reconstructed him, and also they didn't extend him. So I don't know what that means for his future after this season, but I think that pretty much cleared the way that they were going to let go of Trey, unfortunately. And then Poyer getting cut kind of showed the end of the safeties because there's no way they're going to bring Michael Hyde back now. At least I don't think so. And then it's just been kind of. I shouldn't say none of these moves have been unexpected.
No,
right?
I mean they're all. You could have probably pegged a couple of them. I would say Trey White. We kind of predicted a while back.
Every single move that has happened, there is a scenario where it's like, okay, that makes sense, right? Oh, you do something for Rasul Douglas' contract. Oh, that kind of eliminates your right. Mitch Morris gets cut. That's kind of $8 million, $8 million, right? I think the surprise for me is that it's all happening in one scenario, right? It's not like, oh, we cut Poyer, but we're keeping Morris. It's like, no, you're literally purging, as you alluded to, the whole team. I want to quickly, I guess.
Oh, we got to remember, too, Deontay Hardy last week, in between the pods, was released as well.
He just got released today.
Or today.
There's Hines that got released.
Naeem Hines, that's what I meant.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry. Completely forgot.
No, you're right. When I said him today, I was like, oh, wait, yeah, it's true.
Yeah, unfortunate turn of events for him, too. That's honestly kind of sad. But
yeah, so I guess the easiest way to look at every single move is Saran Neal, $3 million for special teams players, a little too much. Jordan Poyer for the $7 million they were going to have to pay him. They want to get younger in the back end. I think it would be fair to say that both him and Hyde last year, still I think were solid. I think they lost a step.
Yeah.
And that needed to be addressed, the future of that position. And then you look at the cornerback, kind of with their move of Douglas, the emergence of Benford, still having Elam kind of maybe could still be something that kind of got, Trey White out. I honestly think the most, and then Hardy and Hines were two. I mean, every scenario had those guys getting cut. Like, there's just not a scenario.
No, there wasn't a way to keep them around.
But I honestly believe the most interesting set of moves was what they did with the interior offensive line.
Yeah, with Mitch Morse,
Ryan Bates, and then the re-signing of David Edwards.
We have to retire this one. Sorry, just have to hold that up for a minute. It's upside down. Sorry, it's upside down. Got to retire this thing. We had so this is a fantastic photo, but I mean, unfortunately, can't go up on the wall. It's no longer relevant to Buffalo sports.
Unless we, is there a way that we could see Josh's foot's kind of?
Let's just paint on.
I was seeing if we could cut Mitch from the photo.
No, we'd lose a pinky toe. I think if we did that.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a way to possibly do it. So,
but I think. So from I guess talking first about the Ryan Bates move. I was surprised by it because
I think everyone was kind of came out of nowhere.
It was kind of like, I think everyone had the expectation that he was kind of getting bred as the center of the future.
He was the replacement to Mitch Morse because Morse has had concussions throughout the past few seasons, so it's kind of like you were thinking.
Next couple seasons, $8 million, so you thought it was a scenario where they
might be on his way out. Yeah,
they cut him and it's Ryan Bates in there.
Yeah,
I think it's interesting. Here's what I'll say: it is clear that the Bills value David Edwards more than Ryan Bates. Obviously, because David Edwards was the guy that was the sixth offensive lineman on those jumbo packages and had at least a role without the injuries, right? Without anyone being injured, David Edwards at least had a role. Ryan Bates not. He was just a straight up backup. Now I think Ryan Bates was solid in a lot of positions, so I think that was interesting. And also, trading him, you get $4 million dead cap. You save only 1.4, so it's not like you save that much for this season. It's really next season in 2025 you save $5 million off your 25 cap, and also you get a solid pick. It's not a fantastic pick, but for Ryan Bates getting a 5th round pick, especially from the Bears who are up there. Right now it says pick 143, but with the picks I think still haven't been released yet, it might drop a little bit. But that's just the Bills have had a lot of success in the 5th round, like Matt Milano.
I mean, Nate Peterman was technically a 5th round pick, but I mean, we won't even talk about that. All right, we'll forget.
They've had a lot of quality players in the day 3 of the draft, so it's not like I mean that's a solid selection. I think now they have 11 or 12 picks now in the draft, and I think we're getting into with Ryan Bates. It was just kind of a shock because it was like this was the guy that everyone thought was going to be the center of the future, like. Kind of what's like the next move, because like this is kind of bizarre. I mean, obviously, then the next move in the interior offensive line fold is David Edwards, which is like okay, that makes sense. Like they would want to re-sign him. Like he was solid and
very serviceable in the position,
serviceable as a 6th offensive lineman for sure. So like that all made sense. It's like okay, they just obviously view David Edwards more than Ryan Bates, so that kind of made sense that they would try and get rid of one, and they couldn't probably keep both or whatever.
Right, you got to pick one or the
but
other.
Then you would think like, okay, the third move is like Mitch Morris probably takes a pay cut, right? He probably takes like $2 million.
Restructure the contract, whatever you got to do.
No, I don't think restructure. I think pay. Like I think
just strictly pay cut.
Strictly pay cut.
Nope. Out of here. Sayonara. I don't know. The rumor is Connor McGovern's going to move over. I know you're a big snap guy, snapples and snapping the ball. So, what are you thinking? Like you got to
snaffle in the car.
Yeah,
I got a Wendy's Coke here.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, no free brand deals, but we're still throwing the name up. But listen, I think that might be a decent spot. Connor McGovern was a very great addition for the Bills. We'll just have to see how he unfolds as a center for the team. Mitch Morse, I mean, that is a loss at the end of the day. That's the one that kind of probably quote unquote hurts the most thinking about it, right? Because that wasn't in the book, wasn't in the plan. It didn't seem to be, and then it was. So
I mean, he's been the
guy since Eric Wood.
Well, no, there was a gap year between the one. There's Josh's rookie, but he's been the guy for the last 5 years.
He's been the guy, like you know what I'm saying.
5 of the 6 years for Josh, he's 5 straight. He's been the guy. He's been a Pro Bowl caliber center, and with McGovern moving over, it's now clear that they. Honestly, it's clear a couple of things from these 3 separate moves is that they want to get younger with the Morris, cutting, and they want to get cheaper. I mean, they save $8 million from Morris, they save 1.4 Bates, and they also kind of save $5 million in the future of trading Ryan Bates, and they get at least draft compensation. It's clear though that they clearly viewed David Edwards as a starting caliber guard. And I think it is also clear that they viewed Connor McGovern as a better center option for the future than Ryan Bates.
Yeah.
So that's why Ryan Bates just gets out, because the questions was always going to be, if Mitch Morris gets injured, who's going to come in? And it's clear now that it was going to be Connor McGovern. They were going to slide McGovern over, and they were going to put David Edwards in. And with already David Edwards being the 6th offensive lineman, that's a very expensive Ryan Bates, making $5 million a year as your technically his 7th offensive lineman, and has to have 2 injuries now, right? He'd have to have 2 people go down to get in the game,
right?
Because I would even doubt he would have been the 6th offensive lineman if Edwards had to be in. It probably would have been. I think I know Tommy Doyle wasn't healthy, but Tommy Doyle used to do that role, so maybe Ryan Vandermark would have been, the guy that would have been the 6th offensive lineman if Anderson, had to start. So I don't know. I think Edwards. Excuse me. So I think those 3 moves honestly are the most fascinating moves, because it's like all of a sudden we talked about, oh my God, they had the 5 starting players all healthy. They had quality backups in Edwards and Bates last year. Maybe Edwards comes back. What do they do with Bates?
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden it's like,
nope, we're done.
It's like they completely have reshuffled the interior offensive line. They switched out 2 positions, and it's kind of like, where do you go from here?
You rebooted. You essentially rebooted the franchise at this point in multiple positions. So what you're looking at, I'm seeing all these tweets. I'm scrolling Twitter. I'm making sure. I know our producer's scrolling Twitter too, making sure nothing else comes out. What I'm starting to see a lot of is July 1st, 2007 for the Sabres being compared to March 6th, 2024 today for the Bills. I don't think it's that drastic, but it's. I mean, you are clearing out. And in more depressing news, disappointing news, Matt Hawk is back with the Bills on a 1-year deal. Just have to point that out. He's not a friend of. He's not a friend of this program.
I think he's
That's all I have to
competing
say.
with Sam Martin for the job, but they haven't cut Sam Martin yet.
Well, Sam Martin, honestly, will have a cakewalk when he fully heals. So, because Matt Hawk is terrible.
But
so
I think, I guess taking the sidestep to that conversation, that's actually was an interesting point.
Mm-hmm.
I disagree with that because that move in 07 really doomed the Sabres' ability to compete.
Yeah.
Right. They didn't in the short term and eventually then in the long term because of what happened.
Yeah.
The producer's giving me like eyes.
No, yeah, that's 07 for the Sabres. Yeah. 07 for the Sabres, and then
I was comparing the 07 Sabres. Yeah.
So
silly boy. I know what I messed it up so much, and I was right there, and I'm still getting chastised. But I'm sorry, I'm going through my feels right now. Trey was like my favorite player back then.
He's a lot of people's favorite players. They're the heart of the team. A lot of them.
So those two decisions to not pay those guys killed. They competed for a couple more years, but they didn't really, get any further.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a reset, and they can still win the Super Bowl. I think this year they just have to make some moves, but it also helps the long-term health of their salary cap.
What is this? Trey White Goalie Academy. That's what he just said. Yeah. I forgot that existed. The Trey White Goalie Academy, but
I understand the comparison because it's right. They're both similar in the fact that it's the end of an era. But I think the Bills are in a better position than when the Sabres were because I think the Bills have a core that players that are better than those Sabres players back then, and the Bills I think have the opportunity now to do some really unique things to get better, to get younger. Like how long have we been talking about the Bills need to pull the Chiefs and just
get younger?
Look what the Chiefs did 2 years ago defensively. Now that they've won 2 straight Super Bowls, which is unique. But they got significantly younger defensively, and it was really worked out for them. Like this is what the Bills needed to do is that this core had reached expiration date. And it sucks to be the dude that has to do all it, but I really respect Brandon Beane doing it because I don't know if I could have.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure he had plenty of emotional conversations.
100%. And these guys, like I said, they're the heart of the team in a lot of situations.
They'll be remembered forever.
Well, and here's the thing: a lot of these guys, right, were on the squad that broke the playoff drought.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about it, so it's like they are a huge, huge part of the history of Buffalo sports where. There were 18 years without a playoff berth, and they were on the squad that did it, right? Kyle Williams was also on that squad. You think back, there's been a lot of time that's passed since then. And these guys did get up there in age. It doesn't feel like it. 13 seconds feels like 3 days ago. You know what I'm saying?
That's 3 years ago.
Yeah, it's 3 years ago. So you don't realize how much time actually passes and how old these guys get, right? So it definitely needed to happen with Poyer, Hyde, the defense. You need to get younger. Because, like you said, look at the Chiefs. They got younger, and they're winning Super Bowls right now. So, I mean, you kind of want to emulate that a little bit. It's a copycat league. You need to get younger, and I think Brandon Beane might have the scheme to just do that and get over that hump.
I think the upsetting part is that hopefully when the Bills break through and win the Super Bowl, that these guys that, bled, sweated, cried together in the beginning. Like these guys aren't going to be there when that happens. Like it's just
that was
tough.
Always the fear.
But I think this is kind of foreshadowed in the fact of all the defensive changes they made coaching wise on the defensive side of the ball. Babich, Eric Washington leaving, John Butler leaving, Adai, the new defensive backs coach, kind of a little bit of a different scheme.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to see a very different, younger. Just a different Buffalo Bills defense, and hopefully maybe that defense, maybe not as successful, maybe in the regular season, maybe the same success, but will be more successful to make deep playoff runs.
Right.
The defense has been letting them down consistently year to year. And then offensively, I mean, just if Mitch Morris leaving, it's tough. And it just shows, though, those 11 draft picks are going to have a significant opportunity to compete for roster spots on this team. I still think boundary wide receiver is still number one on my list. Like I still would prefer that, but safety is now probably two.
Fill the spots.
Like I honestly think safety is significantly higher after today. I think interior offensive lineman. I know David Edwards resigns and is probably gonna be your left guard. I know Connor McGovern's gonna be your center.
But you've done well with younger guys. Look at Osiris Torrance, right?
Yeah, Osiris Torrance and Aaron Comer is good at developing. Like I wouldn't be surprised. And also Spencer Brown's an unrestricted free agent.
He and Dion are both on the last year of their contracts, right?
Yeah. I assume they're going to extend Dion, but
hopefully
Spencer Brown, I don't know if he comes back because he might have worked himself out. So you have to think about how you're gonna, I think it's interesting. I think after this draft, I think people are going to be wondering if the Bills are in win now mode because I think after this draft, the Bills are going to fill a lot of holes on their roster that aren't necessarily holes right at this moment. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they draft an offensive tackle higher than people expect because they need one. Interior offensive line, they kind of need one, even though they have said that those are their 5 starters. Like they need probably another guy or two. Safety is going to be a whole new thing. Defensive line again. Defensive line, like they have. It's going to be interesting. And it's also going to be interesting, like who kind of stays now. Like who are this free agent class? Like Taylor Rapp, Tyrell Dodson.
AJ
Epinesa, Ty Johnson, like is it just a straight purge of like all those guys are going to be gone? We're going to have like, I believe they said at the moment the Bills have 48 players signed. I don't know if it's 48 or 47 after trade, but we're going to have like 40 new players. Well, I guess it's 40 new signees. They could be former players that come back.
Yeah,
of course, but,
right.
But I think it's going to be very fascinating to see like this is going to be an entire.
This offseason is going to be big for the Bills because you're right. It's going to be entirely different. You're going to come back to a whole new team.
It's been very easy year after year being like, okay, who are the starting safeties for the Bills? Okay, Porter and Hyde.
These are our guys
next year,
through and through.
Next year, who's going to be the starting safety for the Bills? Porter and Hyde. And now it's like, next year, who's going to be the starting safety
Taylor
for the
Rapp,
Bills?
DeMar Hamlin. Like, what are we talking about?
It's going to be like, are we bringing back Taylor Rapp? Or are we going to sign a guy and then draft a guy? Are we going to sign 2 guys? Like, I think now, especially with Porter being gone, it's like,
okay, you moved on officially. It's done.
It's official, and it's like, is this now going to be like, are they going to try and do Poyd Hyde 2.0? Like the safety class, is not fantastic in the draft.
So that'd probably be something you might have to grab early. You know what I'm saying? Like to get a decent one. But the wide receiver class is so deep, so this is where you get into the conversation.
No, you don't. No, completely disagree.
You do?
I don't think any of the safeties are maybe Cooper DeJean, but I don't think any of the safeties are first or second round players. Like I think they're round 3, round 4 players.
Right. Well, you have receiver depth too, so I mean.
Well, just because you have receiver depth doesn't mean you shouldn't grab your guy.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm saying the conversation has arose of that. I'm not saying I'm bringing it up. I'm saying it's happened. Like if you look on Twitter, which I'm scrolling through still, just waiting to see if anything else happens, because apparently rumor has it the Bills aren't done yet. With our luck, when this wraps up today, 3 more guys are going to be cut or re-signed. But that's kind of what you're starting to see now is like where do the Bills go in the draft now with all these openings? And I'm still on the wide receiver train. Don't get me wrong. I think they need to get that first. But you have guys saying the Bills just cut their entire team. They'll all be on LinkedIn soon. That's Dave Portnoy threw that one out there, and I was like, all the guys they cut, funnily enough, have more talent entirely than the entire Patriots organization did last year. So you're funny for saying that, but no, it's a new team. It's a weird feeling going into this right now because it's like you said, you had Poyer Hyde the entire time. Those are our guys, year in year out. Those are the starters. Whoever fills in behind them fills in behind them. Now it's happened. You got to move on.
And I'm gonna share some news that might make some Bills fans mad.
Okay.
This just shows, though, how ice cold of a seat both Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott have.
Yeah.
Because they
just did whatever they want.
They are not just that. They are resetting this entire defense. And I guess the expectation would be like if you were going to fire McDermott, now would be the time because this new coach would be able to get his defensive guys in the team and then would figure out which players he wants. Right? It's not like it's like this guy, hypothetically the new head coach after these moves would have no emotional ties to these players.
Yeah.
Right? And now that that's gone and McDermott's still here, it's like, no.
He's actually sitting on a throne of ice. Like,
Yeah.
it is not melting.
Yeah,
It's
like,
unwavering,
I gotta be honest, like,
solid, not melting.
Now they could crap the bed next year and he could be fired. I'm not saying he's
No,
but like it's a lot icier than I think I expected. I think it's colder than I expected, to be honest.
The heated seats aren't on. Like, you're expecting when you let a coach and a GM just basically say, all right, we're rebooting, we're going a new way here, a younger way. You're giving him the keys to the car pretty much for the season and letting him build his thing around it.
Because if they really thought that their jobs would be endangered, what they would be doing instead of cutting these players, they would find a way to restructure or extend these players. Like Mitch Morris is probably getting an extension. No, Mitch Morris is getting outright cut. So I think that's actually a huge takeaway of mine after this. Is like I just
they're on a throne of ice, both of them.
Yeah, they're just not really in danger of getting fired, and I think
like you said, it still can happen though at the end of the season if they really crap the bed. But it's not anything you're immediately worrying about. But there's just a lot.
Their fingerprints are going to be on this entire new roster. Again, 12, 11 draft picks. They're going to get some salary cap space now because I think right now they're at like saved 37.
Yeah, and if they restructure Allen, like the plan is,
and that's 20 mil right there. So they would be 20 in the green.
Mm-hmm.
I think they probably are going to find a way to extend. Reconstructor probably Ed Oliver. Like I would assume now I think honestly
he's set. Ed Oliver's set, so he doesn't have to worry about
another bombshell that kind of just hit my head. Other than with the Sean McDermott thing is, I think both Von Miller and Stephon Diggs' future after this next season has now become in more doubt for me. I never said it was ever in doubt, but now you have to be like, if
you're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel for them,
because if they truly thought these were long-term players, they would have just reconstructed their contracts and not cut all these players.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like I could be wrong on the news could read that they're reconstructing Diggs, but like if they just touch Allen's contract, Oliver's contract, and maybe do some extension for some other players, and they don't touch Von Miller's, which they shouldn't, any scenario they shouldn't, but they don't touch Stephon Diggs, which I think everyone had the expectation that they were going to have to touch that contract. If they don't touch his contract at all,
it puts a fog on his.
The chances of him getting moved, I mean, I'm still not saying they're very high after next season, but they definitely have increased.
100%.
Right? Like, I mean,
100%. You're 100% right on that. You can't tell me now that if they touch everyone else's contract but the two in question, that they're not going to just get out of them when they can. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like it's, and I don't think it's unwarranted. I really don't. I get it. Stephon Diggs' production really hasn't dropped that much, right? He had an off season last year. But all the quote-unquote drama that's the narrative or whatever that I just choose not to pay attention to. I mean, I don't know if you saw it. I know the producer did. He said something, much love, ... on Twitter or something like that. I retweeted it. I said, we're so back, and I love it. Like, I love how he plays with the media, but I can see the problematic side of it all coming down to an end. If he has a great season this year, though, who's to say they won't touch it next year or something like that, right? Sure. So, like, it's not out of the question, but now you see the little bit of gloomy fog coming down on it. Von Miller, though, I don't think they're going to touch it all. I think he's done.
Oh, no.
Mm-hmm.
But that option is now kind of open now.
Yeah, it
right?
that kind of pegs on this season, now, really, for Diggs.
The report, before all this stuff was happening, so we're probably going to talk about, too, is that, I apologize, I think it's Matthew Berry had a report about the Bills' offensive state. And he's talked about how, yes, Brandon Beane is telling the truth that he still believes Stephon Diggs is a 1.
Mm-hmm.
They believe that Khalil Shakir is more of a wide receiver 3, and they want to get the ball in the passing game more to James Cook and Dalton Gade.
Yeah.
All things I like to hear. I think all things are very accurate. I still think Diggs is a 1. I think I agree with Shakir being more than 3. I like the sound. I know James Cook, as you allude to, and everyone's kind of alluded to many times. You got to work on the jug machine.
Yeah.
But it shows that they don't believe they have a wide receiver 2. And with that report, said it's unlikely that Gabe Davis comes back. So another
extremely unlikely that Gabe Davis comes back. Yeah.
Another piece of the core.
And you want
core is the wrong word, but
you want to know something crazy too?
Oh, sure, shoot.
We're paying our tight end top tight end money in the NFL.
And they can't touch his contract.
They can't touch it. So they're handcuffed. Now, I'm not saying I don't like Dawson Knox. You know I am. But the guy behind your head right now is causing a cap issue.
So I think that's what's going to be interesting too.
Mm-hmm. Are you going to let Dawson Knox become the tight end 2 behind someone who's getting paid? Well, yeah. But having a tight end 2 getting paid top tight end money in the NFL, it sucks. You know what I mean?
It happened last year.
It essentially did, but he was out for injury a lot. So
sure,
like,
but it happened last
it was
year.
it was bound to happen.
Let's put it this way. With this whole salary cap kind of reset,
Mm-hmm.
they need to find a wide receiver 2, safeties, whatever. Maybe they buy depth or whatever for both the defensive line and interior offensive line. And look what ahead. You're going to go into 2025 with 3 pretty bad contracts,
Mm-hmm.
or at least 2, and with whatever happens to Diggs, right? Von
Mhm.
Miller's a bad contract, and Dawson Knox is a bad contract. They had to figure out a way for next season they could get out of those, right, without getting killed in the cap.
Yeah.
And maybe they had to wait another year of Knox or Diggs, but they could get out of maybe they could get out of one, but not the other, right? And then you had to choose of like, did Von kind of have a resurgence where it's like we could deal with him for another year?
Right. Who knows
but
if he has a great season?
Knox
right?
had another like 250-yard season and was kind of like Kincaid just taking over and whatever. But I think it would be Von, because I think what you're seeing now in the NFL is teams going to these 12, 13 personnel to get people out of running too high looks. And I think that's what the Bills are adjusting to, actually, with this movement in safety. I think they're going to transition to more of a man one high look, kind of counter the counter a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I listen, it's fascinating. I think this has been an interesting day, to say the least.
It has. You see everyone saying what is going on. No one expected it. It just came out of nowhere. So
this is just a random Wednesday. I believe the league. I mean, you had to be under before the first day of the league year, which I think is next week or
March 16th or something like that.
Yeah, so week and a half. So
Mm-hmm.
to do it now is just kind of.
I mean, go for it though.
It was gonna happen, but
Yeah.
like again, I think
I'd rather have it on an unexpected day, make it fun than on the day.
I like it
you know?
I like that it's happening today and not tomorrow.
Yeah, because we would have been a week before we said anything about it. So.
Might have had to do an emergency depot at that point, but again, I think the shock factor is that this isn't happening in one scenario. This is the scenario where the purge scenario of everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think you could reasonably think, hey, they could cut Tre'Davious White, right? Because they have Rachel Douglas. Whatever.
I think we talked about that multiple times.
You could cut Mitch Morse. Like, you could cut Jordan Poyer. I didn't think they were ever going to trade Ryan Bates, but like
they did.
Sirron Neal declined a little bit on special teams, $3 million allowed to pay for a special teams player.
Mm-hmm.
Hardy and Hines, pretty much in every scenario. It's just everyone in this scenario is getting cut, which is just it's wild. But
at once, you're creating a hole that you need to fill now.
But it's gonna be interesting to see how they fill it. It's gonna be interesting how this impacts the future of the organization, especially again when 2025 hits. You know, those albatross contracts you can't touch this offseason. Do they touch them next offseason? Like, I think it's incredibly interesting what has just happened.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean,
we won't know really what their plan is to fill those holes until
training camp
or
OTAs, really.
Till the free agent, until after the draft, till after free agency and the draft. So it made the draft a hell of a lot more interesting, even though it already was, and it made free agency kind of interesting.
Yeah, because now you want to pay attention to the latter rounds of the draft, right? You want to see
those guys have chances to make. Like
yeah.
Again,
they have starting opportunities on this Bills team.
It is very
crazy.
It is very hard. The Bills have always had quality players in drafts, right? It's always been like last year, Osiris Torrance, Dalton Cade. Like they had two. You get Dorian Williams on the brink. Shorter didn't really do anything.
Who knows? He might break out this year, though. You never know.
It's never been quantity, really.
No.
I know the Bernard.
First couple rounds is where you've been picking.
I know the Bernard draft, like, that was a solid draft. Or
Benford, all those guys.
Benford and those guys. Like, you make a case that that's like what we're going to see. I hope that's what we see this draft, is that we get quality starters, but we also get quantity and quality backups who could step in if needed.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating.
It's cool. I mean, you could say the team right now is a slice of Swiss cheese. There's holes everywhere. You know where else there was a hole?
But just cut you off one thing.
Okay.
I don't think they lost anyone significant.
No.
Other than Mitch Morse.
Right. He's the only one where you're kind of like...
Which is the question mark now of McGovern. Like, Poyer is kind of like declining player you could deal with.
He's getting
Trey
old.
White,
the speed was not
Trey
there
White,
anymore.
I don't think anyone really thought he was ever going to get back to what he was. So Mitch Morse is the only guy where it's like, if Connor McGovern comes in and kicks some ass, like, this is an interesting... I'm not trying to sell it short. Like, these guys are... The leadership is going to be tested because this is a big blow to your current leadership. But again, I'm very fascinated. It's just very fascinating. But sorry to cut you off.
No, we're getting word from the producer right now. The Bills might have a new backup quarterback. Rumor has it Tim Graham is putting out there Mitch Trubisky might be returning to the backup position.
No way.
Yeah. Yep. Talks to reunite. Sources tell Tim Graham Steelers released him, so he's free to sign. Honestly, I don't mind that as a backup position. I'm going to be honest with you. I have more faith in him than Kyle Allen if it came down to it.
I don't give a crap, to be honest. He sucks.
Yeah.
Kyle Allen
I mean,
sucks.
both of them suck. But
let's put it this way. Kyle Allen sucks. Kyle Allen sucks.
Mitch Trubisky sucks.
Case Keenum sucks.
Steve Bichelle, whoever.
Also,
What? Why are you silent? Why are you reading
I
that?
thought they officially did I apologize. I thought they officially did the Allen restructure, but they just said his restructure would take 22.7 off. But
okay.
My
All
apologies.
Right. No. So, I was alluding to the holes now in the Bills offense. You could say cheeks are out, right? I'm wondering, did you see this last night? Did you see this tweet? Josh Allen, my pants ripped at dinner, didn't want cheeks out. I love Paris. So, just a little bit of background on this for a second. We're going to go TMZ, and then we'll get into the Sabres. So, Josh Allen was out with Haley Steinfeld in Paris, enjoying a dinner, I guess, and pants ripped. But he was getting ripped online for just getting out of the limo or whatever vehicle they were in, walking right through the doors without helping Haley out of the car, protecting her from the stupid paparazzi, right? Literally hammered online, saying what a horrible guy he is. Anyone around here knows that's not true, but still. He responds with that. Pants ripped at dinner, didn't want cheeks out. I love Paris. So you could say the Bills right now are his pants ripped, the cheeks are out, and you're going to have to fill those spots, and I think Brandon Beane has a plan to fill those spots. So
fantastic segue.
Yeah, it'll be something interesting. But I'll tell you who stole the day from who. The Bills stole the day from the Sabres. So
in a big way.
Talk about smacking the junk on the table and just flashing a piece. That's what happened here. And it was the Sabres day. Dom and I called earlier today. I texted in our group chat here, Mitz is gone. Casey Rizzler's stat is gone. He's out. Dom calls me. We think that's the only big news of the day. Little did we know, it just exploded from there.
Little did we know what was going to transpire.
Yeah, the Bills strike back. The Empire strikes back, took it over, and made it their day. It's time to talk about the Sabres, though. They play tonight. As you alluded to before the show, there were no changes made to the roster, quote-unquote, from Don Granado, except Casey Middlestat won't be playing tonight, so there technically is a change. So as a tribute to our good boy, Casey Middlestat, his goal, he scored the final goal of the season last year, I believe, or final RJ call goal last year. 2 years ago. RJ's last call, an overtime winner for Casey Middlestat. Just had to do it gratuitously here, so here we go. Casey Middlestat gets it right in front of the net, just pops it in. That's fun Sabres hockey. That's not what we're seeing this season. That's fun Sabres hockey. You hear RJ on the call. Casey with the bat. Casey Middlestat wins it in overtime. So, yeah. It was. Listen, that's what you remember. That's what we talked on the phone too, because we're gonna have to pull out the quotes now. I got a text alerting me to this Casey Middlestat trade. And I don't know if you remember, but the first year and a half of the pod, we were the biggest Middlestat haters out there. Like, there was no one else. We were just taking dumps all over him, saying he needed to be traded. Oh, he needs to get the trade value up. I think I said fuck in all caps as soon as he got traded. I didn't want it to happen. That's where you're at too, from what I can assume, because it was like, I don't know. I feel like he's kind of put it together. It's conflicting a little bit. It's tough. He was on the uptick. He really was.
Like, with the Bill stuff, it hurts, but it all kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
This hurts a little bit, and it all kind of feels very jumbled, right? I think
the Sabres microcosm of a season.
True. It's like interesting this happened, but like it's so interesting that you can't really have a concise thought about it.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I think I was in the mode of don't trade, don't extend, which is go to arbitration, go to 2 years of arbitration, figure out what the heck's going on in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at that point, you understand what you want for contract for JJ Peterka, Jack Quinn, like how. I don't think I was in the opinion of they should be paying Casey Middlestat $7 million or $6 million a year. Not like he's not that caliber of player right now. It's that you've already done that with other players,
right?
And you just can't do that with everyone.
No.
So
And he really has been on the uptick. He's been playing very well. He's been one of the more consistent players this season after a really, really mediocre season for the team with all their starters. I mean,
he's the leader in points plus minus and assists. So
yeah.
He's had a nice year.
He has. And watch, he'll do traditional Sabres fashion. I'm calling it right now. He's going to score the game winner in the Stanley Cup.
Well,
so.
Congrats to him. He is going to be playing in the Stanley Cup playoffs because the Avs are very good.
Yes.
But talking about the return, they get Bowen Byram, who is a top 4 left shot defenseman. It's fascinating because Bowen Byram 22, Casey Milstead 25, so you get a little bit younger. You get maybe that coveted top 4 defenseman we're talking about. Now again, another left shot, but I think we've seen that Dahlin can really play really efficiently on the right side, and I think Ryan Johnson is going to be a guy that's going to be playing on the right side as well. So I'm not super concerned with handiness. It would have been nice if he was a right shot, of course, but I'm not super concerned with that. It is interesting from the perspective of this. Casey Milstead, better player right now. Bowen Byram, lots of potential. Like, he is a legit, has a lot of potential. Contract situations, nearly similar, right? Milstead's going to arbitration this offseason. Bowen Byram has 1 year left on his contract, then he has the same thing as Milstead. So you basically just bought yourself another year trying to figure out what you're doing at Bowen Byram. I believe his cap hit is $3.6 million.
Yeah, right around there, I think, yeah.
So, okay, you kind of cap, contract, kind of maybe work out a little better. Middlestat right now is a top 6 forward. Bowen Byram can be a top 4, top 2 pair, but he hasn't been great the last 2 years. Now, there's been reasons for that. The Avs, I think, haven't been as strong as a team they've been up front the last couple of seasons. He's had concussion issues, which he hasn't suffered a concussion in 2 seasons, which is a good sign. It's a little bit like, honestly, if you want to compare now ex-Buffalo sports player Mitch Morris, we had all the concerns about him with his concussions. He never suffered another one after all those fears. So hopeful and same thing with Byram. And the thing with Byram is that you have seen his ceiling, right?
Yeah.
It's about consistency with him. Like, we have seen his ceiling.
He's also scuffled with Jordan Greenway, by the way. There's a clip floating around out there now. So
his ceiling, though, is that he was the second best defenseman in the entire series of the Stanley Cup Final behind Cale Makar when Colorado beat Tampa. And Tampa had some loaded dudes. Sergachev, Hedman, Ryan McDonough was on that team, Eric Cernak. Like, Bowen Byram was better than all those guys. The only person he wasn't better than was Makar, because Makar is insane, but he was right there with him too.
Mm-hmm.
So like, you've seen his potential. Like, I think it's Dahlin power than him, so I think he's third. But like, that is if he gets his potential, that is a damn good third.
It is,
but it's all about consistency with him.
Yeah,
if he becomes consistent now, I think this system suits him really well. He is a good goal scorer. He's a good finisher from the defense, which you don't really have of power, but you have of Dahlin. We've seen him. And this system with, kind of the D-man coming up and being the extra forward, I think is going to suit Byram. He's a fantastic skater. So I think this system is a fantastic fit for Bowen Byram, a better fit than the Avs. So I'm very excited about this. Now, it feels like the Avs got their second line center that they needed. The Sabres got top 4 defensemen, and now have opened themselves up for other moves.
They
right?
have.
Like,
before the deadline coming up soon here.
It's not even the deadline. It's the offseason, I think.
Yeah.
Like, they've opened themselves up to, they've made the decision on Casey Milstead, they traded him. And they've gotten a top 4 defenseman, and now your defense is kind of set for next year, right? You're going to have probably, I would assume they're going to keep Samuelson. I don't know who would want that contract, but you're going to have Dahlin, Power, Byram, Samuelson, Ryan Johnson. I guess they could still make a decision on Yoki Haru. I would keep him. I think Clifton would then be the 7th. Like, that would be my decor.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much set in stone. You pretty much have your goalies, right? UPL, maybe you had a veteran, a backup just in case Levi, you want to start him in the AHL. So that's kind of been solved. Your decor kind of has been solved.
A little bit.
It's now the forward group, which is the question mark. Because you take away, not arguably, he was your best forward this year, right? And now it's like, can Skinner get back to what he was? Can Tuck kind of bounce back? Can Cousins and Thompson bounce back? Can Quinn get healthy? Can Peterka continue his rise? This is an opportunity now for Payne Krebs to take his spot.
Yeah,
Zach
finally.
Benson.
He's out of 4th line jail now.
Yeah, Kulik, Savoy. Like, to me,
you just opened up a little bit.
Honestly, you opened up a little bit, and you opened up an ability to swing for a bigger forward. I truly believe that the Sabres have now opened, because now that they've kind of, again, they haven't solved their decor. I'm not alluding to that, but they've taken their swing, right? You knew what they were going to trade Middlestat. It was going to be a swing at the decor. They've now swung at the decor. Now the question remains, of all those prospects that you have in the forward group, is it possible you bunch a couple of them and you package them and you go for a bigger swing right now forward? I think that's what we're going to see. I truly believe that's going to happen. I think it's going to be a winger because I think they believe in Tage and Cousins as your top two.
Cousins is already friends with Byram, by the way, because
they played the Canadians juniors with them.
Yeah, so there's I've seen a couple photographs circulating of them all together. So yeah, it already got a little bit of chemistry, which is nice. So
and it doesn't hurt, of course, but
no.
I think with the future of this team, I think it opens them up for a swing with the forward group. So I don't know. I think it's conflicting because I think any decision they made with Casey Middlestat was going to be a decision that was going to be controversial, right? You extend them, and it's like, okay, like I guess another guy to the core. I guess you're gonna kick the can down the road of like now it's Jack Quinn, JJ Peterka. You have questions mark about like their future, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or it's you go to R, but it's like, all right, you're just gonna walk your guy. That's probably not a great idea. Probably not getting the value, and now you trade him, and it's like, okay.
Well, the timeline's weird because they were like, we're not shopping him. After the deadline, we're gonna talk contract with him. And now he's gone. So it's like you're just not expecting that to happen. You know what I mean?
And it's also a situation, too, that I think is intriguing, too, is that they trade him for, one, a high-risk player. This isn't a guarantee because Byram may not hit his ceiling. But, again,
he has a ceiling to hit.
But he has a really high ceiling, a higher ceiling than what Middlestat is
yeah.
right now.
Middlestat, you knew what he was at his best.
But at his best is right now better than what Boehm is for you defensively. So I think that's interesting. I think it's also, at least if they were going to trade Middlestat, I'm at least happy they made a hockey trade. Like, they made a one-for-one trade. It wasn't like we trade Casey Middlestat
future consideration
for a first-round pick and some other prospect. Okay, no, you trade him for a legit piece that can help you right now. You can also grow and develop. Perfect. Literally, like a perfect guy you would target. Now, Byram, I think I would want a guy that maybe a little more consistent. But, again, we'll see with that. I think the biggest thing is, honestly, is that, again, maybe you solve your D problems. You load up now for an opportunity round to get a big forward. So it's going to be an interesting offseason. I'm talking right now, what does this do for the locker room? Like, Casey Middlestat.
He was a guy.
He was a dude. He was best friends of a lot of guys in the team. He was tight. This is a guy that worked really hard to get where he was. And now you trade him. And now I think it kind of, is this the shock they need? You kind of felt like maybe this could happen. Is this the shock that they needed to be like, hey, like this is the freaking NHL? Like,
yeah, it's
happening. We're all friends here, and like this is great in the locker room, but like we have got to start winning.
You need to win games to keep that group together.
You're at points for 82 points in 82 games. That's not acceptable.
And you're way behind last season.
It's just a wake up call, and I think that's gonna be and
because that was their guy, like you said, he's close with all of them. That's a purge right there, where it's like, oh shit, we got to get this boat back on path here, this train back on the tracks. Like, come on, like we're a better team than this. You need to start winning games.
I think this is a perfect wake-up call. I mean, he was the guy that was going to be the wake-up call, right? If they were going to move him, it was going to be a massive wake-up call. And another thing about Byram, too, is that he hasn't played with the best D partners recently. So I think him being maybe paired with Dahlin, I think could be really exciting.
And then that frees Owen Power to go help out a lower line for sure.
Sure. So I think it's just a fascinating move because also what we're going to be talking about next week is that the trade deadline is Friday. And I don't think the Sabres are done. Like, I think the Sabres... Who knows with Kyle Poso? He made a point that, hey, like, I think there's potential that Sunday was my last time playing in KeyBank as a member of the Sabres. And I was like, wow, like, he just kind of openly went out and said that. I was like, okay, like, I guess, like, that could be true. I guess that could be true, but, like, I don't think they would move him out of his consent, obviously, but, like, maybe he's on his way out. Maybe Gergensen's is on his way out. Maybe they trade Eric Johnson. But Eric Johnson now becomes an interesting piece, even though how much I despise him as a player. But, like, as a guy in the locker room, has played with Bowen Byram, knows Bowen Byram. Maybe now, instead of trading Eric Johnson for a fifth-round pick, you might be like, hey, honestly, it's probably more valuable for us instead of trading him for that fifth-round pick. It may be more valuable for him to be like, hey, like have him be here for the next 20 games to help Bowen Byram's transition to this locker room.
Right. Yeah. No, there's definitely avenues now that are open that I don't think were with Middlestat, but it's also, like you said, it's a major wake-up call to these players who are kind of underperforming this season. Like, okay, the NHL is not just about camaraderie and friendship, because that's what this team seems to be like, but you got to win games. You got to produce. And here's the thing, Middlestat, I'm telling you right
produced.
now.
It wasn't his fault he got traded.
No, it was a team-wide thing and whatever. Like, it was not on him. And that should be the wake-up call for that team. He was producing, and he was the one to get purged, all right? Those of you who are not producing, and you are readily able to get purged. But, like, let's not act like he's not going to win the cup and not receive the Conn Smythe. I mean, let's just be honest. That's what's happening now. I'm telling you.
Well,
I'm calling it right now.
Reinhardt's going to get 50 goals. Eichel's won his cup. O'Reilly's won his cup. Freaking, of course, Middlestat. But
Middlestat will be the next on the checklist. I'm telling you right now.
I wish something for the best for him. Obviously,
we turned from haters to fans within a season.
Yeah, and it's tough to see him go from a fan perspective. From a locker room perspective, I can't imagine being a guy as long as Middlestat's been in the locker room, and for him now to leave when he's playing his best hockey of his career. Again, you can only hope, as you alluded to, and I've alluded to, that this is a wake-up call. Like, this is professional sports. This isn't juniors. This is the real crap. And hopefully Byron becomes that piece that they were missing on the blue line for the future that they thought they were getting with T.S. Samuelson.
Yeah.
Become that number 3, and hopefully, I don't know, the Sabres start winning.
Here's my question. So, Don Granato now, right? I mean, your initial prediction was the All-Star break, he'd be gone. That has yet to happen.
A month later now. Employed.
He's still here. They've kind of woken up a little bit in these last couple weeks, right? You've seen them actually playing high-event hockey, winning close games in overtime, right? They've gotten points out of games where they could have rolled over. It's a little better. It's not like they're still at 500. I'm not giving them the praise right now by any means, but I'm saying, is he more secure now than he was before if he finished out the season all right?
This is what I'm going to say. This is kind of like the McDermott Bean argument.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion, no. He's always been on the should be fired list. Because, for him to have...
It's his third full season. And
for him to kind of have all these guys kind of regressing, playing this weird style that doesn't really fit them, but you knew another style fit them, and all the special team struggles that they've had. I mean, they've really only been winning these last couple of weeks because UPL's played, especially, very well. Like, this is
he's playing like a top goalie.
This is the best goaltending they've gotten in the Granato era. So,
isn't he a top 10 in the NHL in a lot of categories
something
now?
like that. Yeah. So it's not so much It's not so much that I'm praising Granato that I'm just praising UPL and all that. Like, I don't think Granato solved anything. So, but again, I think this may be a Bean and McDermott situation where he's probably safer than you and I are saying, right? Like, I think real talk, like,
if they're making these
probably
moves,
honest to
right?
God, if we're being honest, it's probably a situation where the assistant coaches are gonna get fired. They're going to probably add...
Lindy will be president of hockey operations. That's what he'll be.
They're going to add 2 different assistant head coaches to try and solve something, and
Yeah.
I guess maybe give him half of next season, and if that doesn't work out, one of the assistant coaches becomes an interim coach like last time, and we're going to start a circle again where he becomes a 3, you know. But, like, honest to God, like, I would fire him, but I think...
You think the assistants are going before him just to see what the problem is? You're going to try and... But eventually, if it comes true that Granato is at the root of the issue, he's gone.
I'm just happy that Kevin Adams made a move.
Yeah.
You know,
a pretty solid one. I mean...
We'll see.
We'll see. There's a lot of... this could have a huge upswing. This
high
could be
risk, high reward.
High risk, high reward. But look at it. He, again...
made a move.
Put the junk on the table and just did it. Like, he didn't do anything in the offseason that was, like, necessary. But now it's like, you know, I jokingly have been talking about Middlestat's trade value for, like, 3 months now. And here it is.
It's
like,
nice
it just happened.
To see
you know?
that there's some urgency, right? There was the...
Well, he knows. He's like, this could have a high reward.
Well, because where's the urgency been throughout this entire season, right? These guys have looked incredibly lethargic. They didn't fire Matt Ellis. Granato's still the head coach. Like,
right.
So there has to be consequences for this team's failure, and this team has failed. And someone has to pay the price. And unfortunately, it's the guy that was playing arguably the best on your entire team. But that's sometimes how shit goes. So, like...
No, it's going to happen. And it sucks that it was Middlestat. But guess what? He's proven that he's a player that's going to produce. And guess what he's going to do? He's going to go produce on another team.
Good for him.
And good for him.
Good for the Sabres because they needed to make a move.
And maybe we'll see an emergence of Krebs, like you said. He's out of fourth-line jail. We don't know what can happen to him. So... You know, he got Krugered like Skinner got Krugered, so we're going to see what happens there. He got technically, yeah, Granado'd, but Kruger just getting stuck on the fourth line. But
it will be
it can happen.
Again.
They'll play tonight, so we see what happens.
I will say this. It has made this pod significantly more interesting talking about the Sabres because of this trade, and it has made Friday significantly more interesting because now it's like, oh, is there going to be some more moves? Like,
right?
Are they going to get the purge that kind of
the
Bills just had? And it's going to make next pod interesting because we're going to be talking about what happens on Friday. So, definitely a very interesting week ahead for the Sabres. And
that they'll probably do nothing else with, but we're hyping it up anyway. But
I mean, we got to sell the brand here somehow.
Yeah, no, listen. The only thing I found that's somewhat concerning, Sabermetrics tweeted this out. Bowen Bryan counts each morning that he wakes up without a headache as a gift. The Colorado Avalanche defenseman once experienced life while stuck in a fog because of his concussion problem. Like you said,
he's definitely had a concussion issue, and he's definitely has not been. I don't know how to word this probably. Definitely has not
fully
been,
healthy. Like
definitely has not been a great player the last 2 seasons.
No,
but you're buying that Stanley Cup final, which is risky, but you're buying his ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
Listen, I'm good on Kevin Adams. Like we said, just putting it
good
out
on
there
Kevin
and
Adams,
doing it.
Good on Brandon Bean.
And again, don't expect to see Middlestad on the ice tonight if you're somehow out of the loop under a rock or anything like that. But I think anything else. I know this was a long one today. There's a lot going on here.
We'll see. We might have a lot to catch up on next week.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, the Bills could do the same thing again. Like, we don't know. The draft is going to be interesting now. I'm really excited. This made the draft 10 times more interesting.
This made
this lull of an offseason so far 10 times more interesting. So we are planning the live draft special like we did last year, so you got to stay tuned for that. That'll be fun. Listen, I'm excited now. We're gonna this will be awesome. So without further ado, that's gonna wrap it up for this crazy Purge edition of the Buffalonian podcast. I'm Joe Callie. As always, I'm joined by Dom Loss. Thank you to our producer Mooch for everything you do, scouring Twitter for us today and throwing in the Josh Allen cheeks out tweet. So very constructive for the program today. But Dom, how do you always end these, buddy?
Go Bills, baby.
Did you hesitate? Did you just find something in the last seconds here?
No.
Okay.
No.
Go Bills. We'll talk to you next week.